Well, a big welcome to the Noob Spirit podcast. Today, it's what we do every other week. We're interviewing another spearfishing legend. This time, it's a repeat guest. It's Luke Potts from New Zealand. This guy's he's very well known. He's sort of like a bronze magnet attractant, which are a really sort of aggressive, posturally aggressive shark in New Zealand and sort of southern Australian waters. His videos are sort of they're really, really well regarded. If you check out Aquatic Rehab TV, you'll see what I mean. This guy loves to shoot big snapper and kingfish, and he's got a very cool and down-to-earth style as well. I think that's why everyone likes Luke. And right now, he's got a crowdfunding campaign going on. If you want to check that out immediately, go to Luke Likes Ledges on Instagram. Check out his Instagram profile. You'll see there what's going on. But basically, he's got a 5mm wetsuit. It's got a bunch of new features in it. Luke sort of spells out a bit more in this episode. But go and check it out, guys. I love to see people in and around our spearfishing community doing stuff for our community. So, and today's episode, I tell you what, I reckon it's probably only about 20% spearfishing. We get on a whole bunch of different topics. I just loved having a big, broad range conversation with Luke. The spearfishing, as usual, there's some absolute gold in there, particularly around hunting, like ledge hunting. And Luke sort of specializes in that, so you will enjoy that geek out session. But I've got to tell you, it's a very wide-ranging conversation today, so just a small caveat there. Before we get there, two quick shout-outs. If you are interested in doing a Noob Spearo course or trip, I want you to go to spearfishingcourses.com.au/interested. Fill out a quick questionnaire there. Basically, the more locations and people saying they want a course or a charter in this particular area, the more likely we are to run it. And I need you guys to get on. I only want to fill these courses and trips up with frothers that are like-minded and have a similar set of values and embrace the sort of the no ego, always learning mindset around spearfishing. And listeners to the podcast are always welcome. So go to spearfishingcourses.com.au/interested, fill out that form, and it'd be great to maybe even get on the horn with you, see what we can do in the future. The other thing I was going to ask, and I did so last week in last week's episode, I'm chasing some more Noob stories. I haven't heard much for a while, and I was out with a couple of mates the other day, Tim and Phil, and I heard a really good rant from Phil at the boat ramp, and I thought, why not get some Noob rants? So, hey, we get angry about certain things, whether it's someone burning your spot, whether it's something happening on social media or it's some dickhead at the boat ramp. Try to keep profanity to a minimum, but I'd love a voice message to include in the podcast. To do that, go to noobspirit.com, head up into the menu, give back, hit Noob Stories, and leave me a voice message up to 3 minutes. I'd love to hear from you. But hey, let's get into today's episode. Luke Potts. Luke Likes Ledges on Instagram. This guy's a legend. Aquatic Rehab TV. He's been doing it for a long time and recently only just back to the game. Let's chat about it. Let's get into it with Luke Potts. Here we go. Shop with the world's largest dive store, Adreno. Live it and breathe it with frothers just like you, in-store or online at adreno.com.au. Huge range of equipment, always growing, always changing. They are the world's largest dive store. They are available just about everywhere. They have hassle-free returns, massive range of equipment, price match guarantee, and you can check them out online. You can even use the code NoobSpearo to save $20 on every purchase over $200 at adreno.com.au. Check them out. Boom!
I was left with an empty cooler after missing and wounding a bunch of fish with a shoddy spear gun. A work colleague urged me to speak to Neptonics, and I'm so glad I did. Without Jerry and the Neptonics team, I would have kept missing bulk fish and coming home to my wife empty-handed. Now I can focus on slaying monster hogs and grouper and covering the deck of my boat in blood.
Never buy a shitty piece of equipment again. Shop Neptonics.com. Use the code NOOB10 to save 10% and go spearing with confidence. Jerry says if we sell it, we believe in it, we trust it, and dive it. Shop Neptonics.com. Free shipping for the lower 48 for orders over $199, and you can save 10% when you use the code NOOB10, NOOB10 at Neptonics.com. Hoorah! I love companies and people that challenge and poke fun at political correctness. Fuck the Taxman does exactly that with gear that we can identify with. The frustration of being taxed. Go to fuckthetaxman.com to check out a huge range of UV-resistant sun-safe shirts, hoodies, shirts, stickers, and more that celebrate the spearfishing life. Recently, I really like the look of some of the boat wraps and boat decals. Go to fuckthetaxman.com, check out what they've got. Use the code NoobSpearo at fuckthetaxman.com and get a free hat of your choice when you spend $100 or more. Check it out at fuckthetaxman.com. That's a good note to start on. Guys, we're on the podcast. You've got Cam Haynes in front of me. Is that Cam Haynes' first light?
Yeah.
It's New Zealand's version anyway. It's Luke Potts back for his 17th time on the Noob Spearo podcast. But it's been a few years, Luke. Lucky you're not turned around because you've got that big, deep V back on you now too. You know, all the girls would be like, excited.
I've grown some wings, yeah.
It's good to see you anyway, bro. Mate, we actually started off the interview with tech issues, which is normally on my end and not the guest's end, so hats off to you. But you're a pretty tech-savvy guy. You've ended up sort of rigging up an Osmo, which is your in-water cam these days. Let's just start off quick with a Osmo versus GoPro chat, if we can. Like, I'm about to switch it as well, I think, which is, GoPro's been good to Spearos for years, but loyalty's not enough to keep me there. But walk me through why you've switched.
I think it's a lack of innovation there. Like, they seem to have sort of stalled a bit, whereas DJI's sort of taken over there. And I was like, oh, what am I going to get? And then I did the basic YouTube versus, and there's so many more features. Like, I can't even. There was one basic video which is like the 20 features difference between that and I think the competitor is the 12, right?
Yeah.
The main thing that sold it for me was the biggest sensor. So
better in low light.
Yeah, it's eating light really well. And in the action, actually on the front, like it says action, it's got the O in action has a external temperature sensor. So with the GoPros, it's always like you get that big color change, those big sharp changes.
Yeah,
but it seems to hold it really nice. Yeah, they're heavy now. That's one thing I'm noticing, which is a little bit difficult.
What, the Osmo's heavier than the GoPro?
I don't know about the new, because I haven't tried the new GoPros, but I just now that they've grown, they're heavy. And
GoPro switched to a bigger unit as well, though, and they were a bit heavier as well. And that was the main. That's why people didn't want to get off a 7, because 7s were still the smaller unit, and then they went to the 8 and it was bigger. And I think the 10's slightly bigger again. I haven't even used an 11 or a 12.
Yes, I've got a 7 black, and it's way smaller than that. And so that probably compares to 12. I don't know, but all I know is that I'm finding, like, when you come off the reef and then you're like it's like I come forward a bit, and then. But apart from that, I'm guessing all the new GoPros and that do it, but I'm filming in instead of 16:9, I'm filming in like a 4.3, because when you're landing a fish, you got that thin view. You can't, you have to adjust the camera and then stuff going on. So with that, you can just sort of like pan your shots down in post and see what's happening.
Yeah,
it's really good. So you get like top and bottom another however much. It's quite a lot. The shark comes through up there, and your camera's angling slightly down. You can just
do it. 4x3 is better than 16:9.
I started using it. There's a slight warp on the outskirts, but it doesn't. Yeah, I think it gives you more room to play around.
Yeah, nice. All right.
Just, if you could be bothered editing like that.
So we're back on Zoom with Luke Actionable Potts. He's you've been the captain of action for a while. You've had some gold over the years. It's great to see you back, because you had a few dark years there, which I hope we're going to sort of touch on you. Yeah, and then your humor come out of it. You roasted a couple of Spearos in your little satire. Yeah. I enjoyed it, but I wanted a little bit more background and context. But I was a firm subscriber to Out the Gate.
You like it?
Out the Gate production. I particularly liked a few. There was this one guy, you had this guy on, this doctor from Byron Bay, and then that guy, man, I was pissing myself hard. Yeah.
yeah, that's rough. Yeah. I was
loving it.
I had some people talking to me about it today as well. The problem was with the algorithm didn't go to where it needed to go, because the spearfishing following went on, and then my sort of it was like, these are your relatable videos, and it was spearfishing videos, whereas it should have really gone into people that are more into sort of Adult Swim and
I don't know
all
what
that kind of
Adult
stuff.
Swim is. What is Adult Swim?
Oh, that's like where all the sort of abstract kind of that style of comedy sort of goes, you know, slightly darker. I love that real dark, sort of deadpan, witty, and then that the pacing of it.
Yeah.
I just love that. I've always been into that stuff.
Your core character and his mate, they were friggin' hilarious, and his gay uncle or whatever.
And they had a so I try to make an extreme dynamic between two very relaxed guys.
Yeah,
and this Australian man who was just a lunatic.
Yeah,
and it was like it was just an unbreakable. They were unbreakable. The characters were, you know, the dynamic of them was unbreakable, and they just, it was wild. And then there's Bear Grylls' brother, and
I felt like you went missing from the spearing scene during COVID, which was weirdly enough sort of the timing of it was funny because a lot of people come to YouTube during that sort of, you know, all this lockdown and horrible shit and that. Like, what was because you were kind of in a pretty dark place for a while. I mean, walk us through sort of what's happened over the years.
So pre-COVID, I was running charters, and I had obviously there's like mental health things, but there's something else running alongside it. It always got exacerbated since ciguatera symptoms, but also since tick bite symptoms. So I had a tick bite around the same time I got ciguatera, and I that was in Queensland, but like in the jungly sort of Queensland, the wet stuff. And I had like a 30-day headache. It was bad, and I knew it was whatever it was going on was nasty. But I didn't know anything about Lyme, and then the doctor's like, "There's no Lyme here." Since then, I've had friends in Queensland test positive by sending their blood to America, so we don't know if it could be that post-bacterial type of thing or what. But I was like, is it you know, there's elements of depression and anxiety, and then weird other stuff and pains, and then just crashing, fully fatigued, but also just a whole myriad of just strange stuff, like including visual stuff and all that. And then the fatigue and I was running charters, and the fatigue got so bad that just pre-COVID, I nearly blacked out on quite a shallow dive while guiding. I had two punters above me, and I was watching a kingfish, and I had a massive heart palpitation at about 12 meters or something, 8 to 12 meters or something. And then I made it to the surface, and I just said to them, I don't think I'm going to stay conscious here. Like, just watch me. And my heart was like in an arrhythmia. And then I had a break. I was like, that was terrifying. Had a break. And then I went through. I was going through the hospital, the pain clinics. I was seeing a specialist who got a diagnosis of ME, which is like post-viral syndrome, whatever, post-bacterial syndrome. And then went through the pain clinic and 4 different specialists there in the hospital. Went back diving, had an amazing day diving, and then
was that the shark? Was that the shark video you shot?
We shoot quite a few snapper, and I don't actually talk about it in the video, but when I shot my last snapper, I had another big lurch as soon as I shot it, huge heart palpitation in the water. And then my dive buddy, the spotter, got charged by a bronzy that was doing like corkscrewing. So I made it to the surface, and I remember being half there, like it could go either way. I could black out or not, trying to hold the fish. And he was long gone. I was like, if I blacked out, I probably would have been, it wouldn't have been good. And then that was like terrifying because it was a straight 8-month break, I think is what it was. And for it to be the exact next dive. So then we went through COVID and all the crap, and then I was sort of up and down and fatigued, and then things got really bad. And then just dealing with the symptom set is fibromyalgia. The disorder they just call it ME. It's like no one really knows, but it's like
that's a great diagnosis.
ME. You've got but I mean, it's just everything that can feel. You can feel bad. You get all of it. Have it. But you're not bleeding, so no one believes you. And then so about November I started coming out. October, November.
Mm.
One of the world leading specialists. She retired. She was in New Zealand. She says you're probably young enough where you could lift out. You'll still get a bit up and down, but and it did. It happened about October, November. I had a phone call to Dave Mullins about the heart thing, and he said during that, you've got. I won't get too far into it. You might have like histamine flares, like instead of having a mosquito bite, where you got mast cells granulating histamines at that area, you might have it where it's happening inside your body, like MCAS, like your mast cells granulate histamines, and that makes you feel terrible. So that can affect the heart and everything.
It's an autoimmune response.
Kind of. It's kind of autoimmune. And there was actually, it's not like your body's attacking itself, even though there was markers of that, but they couldn't identify where. But it's kind of like, it's just they granulate randomly. And then I come out and I says to him, what can I do about this? The palpitations and blah blah. And he said
hill sprints.
Yeah, he said train for like those big blood pressure shifts that are happening when you dive, and then break and pretend you're on the surface and chill, and then sprint again after 3 minutes or whatever. Sprint for a minute 30, and then have a break. And I did that. Man, I got so in winter when I was like screwed, I was 96. I think I was 96 kilo. I trained up until Christmas. I'd lost 20 kilos.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I had no alcohol, nothing like that. I was just real focused on it. And then I got back in the water New Year's Day, just hanging out with bronzies by myself, just real shallow stuff.
Yeah, watch that video.
Yeah, I felt mint. And then, because I didn't think I was going to be able to dive again. Like, I truly thought that it was over. And that's how bad it was. And then just like week after that, I shot like a 20-pounder in the face on its level, and then just killing better than I ever was. So try not to take it for granted.
Dr. Dave Mullins then?
Yeah, that was a big help. I got a concussion in November, quite a bad one. So it's like,
geez, what was that from?
I was helping, because when I started to feel better, I was like out doing more stuff. I was helping the young kids with the soccer. So my son was 6, and they kicked the ball, and I run into like a
goalpost.
The big metal was like immovable, and like it's the one if you hit it, you'd never hear it. It'd be like, pop. But I hit it so hard with my head, it went ding, and people even 50 meters away. And I was like, and all the dads were like, you need to go to hospital. And I was like totally in a different world. And then I wasn't nauseous or anything, so I thought I'd be right. I ended up in A&E 8 days later, and like my eyes weren't working. I was just hammered. I went through 6 months of concussion clinic, but I was sort of jesting. Maybe I just needed like the knock on the head. Because as I come out of there, then I come out of that nastiness, but I bashed my head around the same time, and then I was doing really well in the water. So
yeah,
pretty interesting. But I'm just I've been through cardiology. I've been ultrasounds and ECG and doing a lot of testing, and that took forever to get on top of. So that was good. But I just have to stay cautious.
So with the prognosis of ME and symptoms like fibromyalgia and, the sort of, I guess, the crashes that come with some from the mental health side of things, did you adopt any sort of, and it'd probably be hard to sustain when you're in a place like that, but did you adopt any protocols in terms of, exercise, other sort of maybe mindfulness activities, therapy, any medication? Like what did that look like?
Yeah, so firstly, for medication, they're like, don't take any tramadol, codeine, like any opioid kind of medication, because it messes with the it's actually very interesting. It messes with the chemical pain gates in the spine. It's like you've got millions of signals coming in, but only so many are allowed to make it to the brain. And then, so you might get signals that come in. If the gate chemicals are funny, the brain has to respond if something makes it. So it's like you'll get tight muscles there, you get a whole bunch of problems. So that's off the cards. So they gave me a low dose, it's an SNRI, so it's a low dose, it's like an antidepressant, but the dose is so low, they use it for pain.
Okay.
Something like 1/10 of the normal dose. And then, so the biggest, I think the biggest problem with all of it is insomnia, and sleep depth. There's a lot of research around ME and post those sort of syndromes where you're not getting enough sleep or good quality sleep. So that's the toughest thing. It's like sleep hygiene, and so you have to adopt strategies around that. That's up and down. It's just up and down.
I think we've touched on heaps of stuff here. Sleep hygiene's an interesting one. I've had issues with it too. Like I ended up going complete darkness. Don't get off any form of night shift for a start, because I used to do that all the time.
Yeah.
That plays havoc with the endocrine
So
system.
did I. Yeah.
And then so complete blackout at nighttime, and I started reading fiction before bed. And I feel like and I feel like temperature's still a hardcore modulator as well. Like for all forms of sleep, and because your body has to drop a couple of degrees to enter good sleep, and then before you wake up, your body's actually supposed to warm up again as well. I learned a lot of this stuff from Huberman podcast. Have you listened to that?
Yeah, so I did a lot of Huberman with salt intake, mindfulness, like when he talks to Sam Harris, you mentioned on mindfulness and that.
Have you got Waking Up, the app?
Yeah, I did the whole of Waking Up, but it's sustaining that. I mean, there's a lot of brilliant practices there for spearfishing as well.
Spearfishing could almost serve as like, for someone that doesn't have any form of mindfulness practice other than spearfishing, when spearfishing's taken away for whatever reason, that's probably when you realize like, oh, I've got to replace this with something, because I feel like spearfishing and freediving to an extent are almost like active mindfulness.
Yeah. And I think it depends on the person too. Like some people, I mean, the concussion psychologist is like, you got ADHD or something. So your brain's just going.
Did you? And I don't mean to do a crude diagnosis. Did you look at manic depression?
Oh, I was diagnosed with like major depressive disorder for a long time.
But
that's always been.
Have you looked at the manic side of it? So do you understand the manic side of it?
Well, like bipolar, where you experience mania. I've never experienced mania.
Well, it doesn't need to be. Well, you say that, but like some of your creative, and I don't mean to have a therapy session now. I'm not a therapist by any means, but like I look at how creative you can be at times, and I think, wow, that
it's psychotic.
Well, there's always another side to being that creative as well. Generally, it's followed by a crash, and I know because I relate to it on some level, and that's why I ask. Like bipolar and manic depression are related, but you don't necessarily need to have some of the more extreme symptoms of bipolar. And this is my limited understanding speaking here, but I feel like for anyone that's neurodivergent, I feel like spearfishing is a sort of it's this massive healthy thing that we can do to help us manage our own bullshit. But I have read a lot about it, because as you get older and you start to realize your own quirks, you start to go, oh, what's that? And then you sometimes see stuff in yourself that you didn't realize was there.
I mean, my best mate up here now, he's and he's helping with the aquatic rehab business and that too. And he loved Out the Gate, and he's very, very similar to me. And he was like asking quite similar questions. So that was it was not only the level, the amount of editing and the hours that were going consistently and the energy. But that is something that I always wanted to do. I'd wanted to do comedy about the same time that I started spearfishing.
Yeah,
I remember, but I'm going, how would I do it?
Did you ever have a go at stand up?
No, stand up's something that it's always been in the back of my mind. I have trouble developing stand up, but
Yeah.
we sort of do a bit of a comedy podcast, but that's on hold because we're just so busy at the moment, riffing in that. But I'd like to, yeah. But as you say, there's something. There's neurodivergence, but it's just like what diagnosis and
Yeah. A lot of it's like spurious and guesses like, and I say that because I've dealt with a fair amount of neurodivergence in my own family group, and also when I worked in the jails, and and I read a lot as well. I done, like, as usual, it's another one of these half degrees that I did as well. So I'm like an armchair expert at best, but it is interesting. And all the people I've talked to over the years, like, I always get a feeling that spearfishing serves as more than merely the pursuit of like going diving and shooting some big fish. Like, there's always these therapeutic benefits on a bunch of different levels.
Yeah, it's a weird calling that, the spearfishing there. The one thing I found with the spearing during fibromyalgia is that, like, I'd wake up feeling absolutely terrible and depressed. Like, and then what I mean by depressed, people think, oh, you're sad. No, sadness and happiness are both as separate from that. You know, depression more would be like anhedonia, like the inability to feel anything, just totally can't feel. Like, hey, I got to go diving. Ollie's taking me out. You know, how long's he had that boat? We've got to go out and get on the boat, blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as I'm in the water, it's just, it must be like a nervous system response to do with the environment. Like, for example, you put a tiger there and your snap tendon doesn't matter because you need to get out the door. It's something along those lines. It may be also something to do with the stimulation with the cold, with the nerves and the MDR. I don't know, but there's 100% there is some type of pain numbing thing that happens in the ocean. But I guess it's an environment where you have to be kind of quite onto it in.
A lot of people back in the day used to talk about left brain, right brain activity, and as you get older, you get frontal lobe development, which is all your executive control. I think when you're in a high stress environment or an environment that demands more of you, like being in the ocean surrounded by stuff that can eat you, and when you're trying to hunt and be part of it, and there's all the other physiological aspects, like you say, of the MDR, I almost feel like it forces your brain into another part, which is like where a lot of the background stuff actually becomes the background stuff, and you're just more present in the moment.
And it says what I've noticed is that, but not only that, but also like paying attention to the nerves because before I go out, it'd be like it felt like my bones are gonna crack. Like that's the pain level.
Oh.
And watching the difference in the nerve response or what the brain's. Well, everything's felt in the brain, you know, generated by the brain. If you look at like phantom pain and all that sort of stuff, it's like that's something that's very, very interesting for me. And then the crap thing about being so fatigued that was my cardiovascular system was having problems. That was depressing, properly depressing, because it's like shit.
Well, you don't feel like a bloke. It's probably like, do you know what I mean? Like we like guys, we're like, so part of our identity is in what we can do. And so when that's taken away from you for whatever reason, there's a big adjustment there that's not a real gentle one.
And that's so there's like an ego death with it, because that's sort of, because you'll know the whole with Harris and Eckhart Tolle and all that. It's like, this is, you build a you or an ego.
Well, it's all Freudian. They're all post-Freudian guys. Yeah.
And it's like, if you have to kill that part of yourself. That part of yourself is gone. It's a really interesting struggle. But that gave me an opportunity to work on more creative aspects. And I had like good friends, and even Catherine, the Spearo, she had people going like, "What on earth is this?" Like, and Catherine's like, "I've known Luke for a long time. This is completely normal for him." Like, this is it's just an outlet of that. So, and I'd still be doing it if I had the time.
Isn't it funny that when ego kind of experiences a death, or you experience a bit of a gap in it, that you become more creative again? because creativity is like a childlike state, and and ego and all the other constructs, they almost get in the way of it. So in some ways, it's an interesting phase you went through, Luke. I don't want to be the token gesture type of bloke, but when people go and touch on depression and stuff in their own personal experiences, I always like to give people like some idea of who to call or where to go, because depression, like you say, like it's a pretty hardcore state, and those of us that have been in it, even for brief moments, kind of have an idea of what you're talking about. Well, I mean, where can people go, and what can they reach out to in terms of resources to help them through some of that stuff?
Well, firstly, I'll say, I mean, as soon as you Google any depression helpline, you're going to get your local one. But I always help people on my Instagram. I'm not saying that's the first port of call, but I like to voice message people in the spearfishing scene, because I think there's a lot of guys in the scene and guys that a lot of people know that have reached out to me and be like, don't tell anyone this. I'm going through the same thing, or I feel the same way, or don't feel the same way, if you know what I mean. So, but yeah, I think if you've got to that point where you're literally thinking like, I can't do it anymore, and then there's like suicidal thoughts are biting at your heels continuously, then you have to reach out to get some strategies. And then and especially if you're starting to feel, what do they call it? There's a word for it, where you get like your neurotransmitters are so out of whack that there's like a quite a nasty fatigue that comes with it, and it feels like you're underwater. It's actually very hard to move. That's quite a dangerous sign, a dangerous symptom. And then they often will recommend medication at that sort of point. So yeah, I mean, my thing would be like, just reach out. Like, we lost a guy up here with 3 young kids probably 10 days ago. So
the temptation for a lot of people when they get into these states is to hide in a cave by themselves. And I don't know that that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, and I've done that like a lot, because you sort of,
but you know, I don't know. The other extreme is, people say, oh, it's, they trying to like be a victim on social media so they get pity and compassion and stuff. And I think there are those few people. So, but a lot of guys don't ever want to feel like that. And they don't want their shit, like what they're going through, plastered anywhere public or in front of a bunch of people that want to look at them under a microscope. If you do reach out to someone, you kind of want them to be the right person though too, because, and like in Australia, we have this "Are You Okay" day, and I always feel like they're making effort to help people get a bit more in touch with their each other and be more caring and compassion. But like I watch half my workmates, like when one of them's going through something tough, one of the blokes is like, "Yeah, all right," and then the guy's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not," and then the other dude's just like, "Oh, well, go talk to someone," and then he just walks off. It's an honest response, because when no one's watching you on a video for social media, so you don't look virtuous, that tends to be the general response. So, I mean, are these so Google like depression, and then you get on a helpline?
I've never used a helpline, but I've been through all of it. Not the specific actual helplines, but like literally go to the doctor myself and be like, "This is the symptoms," and then you just do the straight test. Yeah. But if you're to the point where it's just too nasty, then you got to reach out on the spot. But otherwise, the doctors will have the generic test and they'll go, "Well, this is what it looks like." And then what was very interesting was I always test positive for major depressive disorder on the generic test that they give you.
Yeah.
But I had the best results ever, because they actually do it to you during your concussion therapy. Mm. And I had really, really good results through summer. Crashed again through winter, and a lot of people have to realize too, it's genetic. It's not like, oh, something bad happened to me, so I feel sad. It's not that at all. Is it the abyss is something completely different to that, and it's I think it's very hard to explain. It's very hard for me to understand what it would be like to be someone without that. So, yeah. And when I'm not feeling it, I'm always out there like people get in touch with me if you're feeling like this. But when I'm feeling it, I don't. I'm like, oh, I'll help people in other ways.
I read this thing recently. Now talking about therapy as an intervention, like, and I've had therapy. I've had really good therapy, and I've seen some people that I didn't get along with that well. And one thing I learned was that therapy is not actually always a positive intervention. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes the mental aspect of being depressed isn't always. It's not about doing more thinking about yourself. Like, it's almost like this really shit cycle you get stuck in your own head, and someone talking to you about those shit thoughts don't actually make the shit thoughts go away. They just kind of intensify, and then you dwell on them, and it's actually not that helpful at all.
I've never had much luck with talk. I go out and talk. What I've found is that, well, like some of the real good the neuroscientists and that sort of speak about it, they'll explain the different neurotransmitters, the different set of neurotransmitters, like norepinephrine and serotonin and all the rest. I won't get too far into it, but if you lack in any, then you've got this imbalance, right? And then you'll know all about this. You don't know what thoughts coming in next. You don't have control over you think that those thoughts are you, but and that neurotransmitter imbalance can it sort of stimulates what's going to be coming in. So that the best things that I've found is literally like mindfulness, like practicing refusal to think, and going into the body and things like that, and just practicing daily and using the waking up app is absolutely brilliant. Like the way that Harris did that, that was amazing. And the way that he explains along with everyone, and what do they call it? It's a non-dualistic meditation. So that non-dualism, that's something that I think is really, really key to learn for that, because it's like, you think you're separate to the world, but this is your consciousness is everything, because Harris can explain it a lot better. But I think that when things have been really, really gnarly, those are the things that, only for me, I mean, I might not connect to other blokes that don't overthink as much as I do. But I've just found that there has, like, if I'd done like 3 or 4 weeks of that, that's like settled it out, where I can sort of recalibrate and lift out.
Yeah. I want to move on with you, and I want to chat hunting techniques to close out this broader topic, particularly around mental health. Like, could you like distill down some big takeaways for anyone stuck in a tough place, like into a few actionable points? And I'm sorry to be so crude about it, but I really feel like we've unpacked some stuff that may or may not trigger issues, and people are always going through stuff. I know, because I've been written heaps of emails over the years. What are some of your biggest, like, 1, 2, 3, this is what I'd do? Like, this has helped me.
Well, the first one is probably from a recent human one that I saw, which is like 4 hours after 10 p.m. if you're getting to sleep, the impact on mental health. Look at so number one, sleep. Look at like orange, like blue light blocking sunglasses. Look at getting a prescription of melatonin, using that in total darkness, and just working on sleep hygiene. And then obviously, depending on how bad it is, just like reaching out to, like, go to the GP and and try to get something formal, especially if you've been suffering for a long time.
In Australia, when you do it, they run you through a generic questionnaire, and then they can put you on what's called a mental health care plan, and essentially you get 10 highly subsidized visits to a psychologist or psychiatrist.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah. And then you can gauge if that's the path for you, and then I think you just have to be self-aware about it, and also just realize that it's not abnormal in the modern world. It's not an abnormal thing for that. I mean, everyone was like, if everyone was happy all the time, no one would be doing anything.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a normal part of our human condition, and we all have it to an extent, and it all comes and goes at different parts of our life, which is also why I asked you to distill down some practical things for people to do, because it's a very real part of our lives. And I mean, it's good that you're able to share so candidly about your experience.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, it is me.
Yeah. I love it. You're always you.
yeah. So then, yeah, and then like if there's anything else, I mean, I'm always sort of happy to help people out if they reach out about that kind of stuff. And I always say that really, really openly.
Luke _likes_ledges on Instagram. He's verified.
Yeah.
He's huge on there, but not unapproachable.
Not out the gate anymore.
No, I want to chat a bit more about out the gate. But before we get there, like one of the biggest appeals of your YouTube channel, and I'm bringing it back to our core Spearo frothing audience for a little bit. You're very good at hunting snapper.
90%. Yeah.
And, you know, it's not like you want to give everything away. And I want to have a discussion about some of the haters on Instagram because I went through some of the content.
Are you in the market for a new spear gun? Killshot Spear Guns has got blue water wahoo tuna guns, open track spear guns, enclosed track spear guns, rear handle enclosed tracks. Check them out at killshotspearguns.com. Even better, I've got some good news for you. You can save $30 on any Killshot Spear Gun at killshotspearguns.com. Use the code Noob. If you're in store, just say, crikey, mate, or say Shrek from the Noob Spearo sent you, and you'll save $30. Ed Martin at killshotspearguns.com. Check them out.
This podcast is brought to you by aqualite.com.au. This is the best solution, bar none, for staying hydrated in the ocean. If you're a Spearo, it's an absolute no-brainer. It's a game changer. If you're doing extended trips and the cramp starts to set in and the old body's telling you, hey, that's enough, just get hydrated and it will save you a whole heap of woe. Get Aqualite at aqualite.com.au. It's scientific rehydration that Spearos know and trust. I know because one works there, and that's why we've set up this discount code for you, 10% off when you use the code NoobSpearo at aqualite.com.au. Check it out. Australian-made hydration products tailored for Spearos and a whole bunch of other people that suffer from dehydration too. But check it out at aqualite.com.au. Use the code NoobSpearo to save 10%. To make the most of your spearfishing trip, charter, or competition, I am putting together a 50-day Spear Ready program so that I can be in the best condition to make the most of this WA comp. It's a big swim comp, shore-based, and big swims for the day. I am not carrying a hell of a lot of physical conditioning because just due to my life and lifestyle, pretty busy with 4 kids. So this program will be 100% focused on action. And I thought since I'm doing it, why not take a whole bunch of other people along for the ride? It's a 50-day program incorporating strength and conditioning, nutrition, dry and pull training, and everything else with a bunch of experts. I reached out to a whole bunch of legends I know, like Adam Stern, Jared Rosenberg, strength and conditioning coach. And we put together this program basically to get the most out of our bodies and make the most of these opportunities. Sometimes they're only once in a lifetime. You really want to arrive in the best possible condition that you can be. So Spear Ready, 50-day program to help you gear up. Go register noobspearo.com/Spear Ready. But before we get there, can we just do some practical chat about the art of ledge hunting? Because there's all sorts of hunting styles, but one style I reckon you're extremely good at is ledge hunting. And would you mind walking us through some actionable info on hunting snapper using, this style of hunting that you've kind of developed over the years?
Yeah, so I sort of, I've taken like the core basics of snapper snooping and finding them, and then also feeding them in a really hot zone, and then going back and sort of seeing what I could pull into that area and looking through and shooting fish like that. Firstly, you'll know this too. It's like a vibe. You start to learn that vibe of the zone. So I basically swim until I start to see a lot of good sign. And I just released a video yesterday where I do it quite a lot. Like go down, get a kinner before I go over that ledge, or I might snoop it and have a little look, or get a kinner and just like surface throw it and let it sink. And then if there's any snapper in there, quite often they'll go in and have a look. And you get a pretty good gauge. If you start to see fish over 40, 45 centimeters, I think that's quite a good gauge that there could be quite large fish in that area, as opposed to a whole pile of juvenile fish. The more you go out and towards the sort of gnarlier, deep drop-offs, the more you're running into bronze whalers, schools of kingies, big schools of drummer, all the like fishiness. Instantly for me, I'm like, there's going to be a big snapper. There's going to be a big snapper in the 100 meters here, no question. It's just and then when you'll start spooking them a lot too. So, but learning what you're seeing. And for brand new divers, what you got to remember is to not put yourself out too. I've always said is not to put yourself out too far into the water. You want to always hug on the coast and identify everything you see, like even little fishes and fins on fish out quite far. If there's something that you don't recognize, focus on it until you do recognize it. And so it'll get to the point where you'll go through the whole scene and something won't make sense to you, and it might end up being a bit of plastic or something. But anything that doesn't make sense is worth always going, what in the heck is that? And then you build and now I'll notice a big snapper quite far away just by the bottom of the tail, the white strip, or a pelvic fin, that shape of a pelvic fin with the white strip way back behind it. Yeah. Do you have any other questions on that?
Yeah, a lot of guys, sun at your back, coming over a ledge, looking down into it if you've laid like a ground burley. And this is kind of my basic understanding. And then you're hugging the ledge so that your silhouette doesn't become too apparent. And that way you're the sun's sort of hiding you a bit as well, if possible.
If possible, but not always. It's not always possible because you might have some really juicy turf in front of you that with the sun's coming onto. But I always make it so I'm like, okay, well, think about how when you look up at your buddy, even in bad viz, how much further you can see upward. I mean, and then what I do is like you have a ledge, and then you think if the snapper are way out on the kelp flats, what is it going to take for them to be go see a silhouette on the surface? Very, very easy. So when I take out new guys, I lose a lot of fish because they break past a point where I tell them not to break past.
Yes,
think it's okay, and I go down and say all the fish are gone. Often, and I just I try to act okay about that. But and then approaching is like, more kelp the better. Get into the kelp. I like to wear darks down inside the kelp, gun to the side, and then approaching carefully. I don't believe sound matters. I make a racket sometimes. I bash stuff. I bash rocks.
So you think it's vision, primarily vision?
100%. It's 100% vision. It's just like a deer. They will crack onto something very, very fast. Anyone that deer hunts knows it. It's the vision is something to never take for granted. The species, obviously, somewhere along the line, it's had to be wary of something.
The other moment that people seem to have trouble with is like they either come over a ledge too fast and spook the fish, and so their sort of automatic response to that is, oh, I need to have my gun ready faster and shoot faster.
It took me a long time to learn this. I used to watch fish and then I'd lose out because I never knew when to actually extend the gun. And it's weird what you can actually get away with, but it's the same with hunting. You watch what the fish is looking at, because you'll see them, like, especially if you start throwing kinner, you've broken up kinner, you've put down a burley, you might have some fish burley or whatever. If you've got it over a ledge and you've got fish there, you'll see them going in, you'll see them chasing each other off. They sort of joust each other. If there's a shark in there, you're pretty much set to move. You can wait till the shark goes right past, because I watch snapper grabbing a big bit of meat or something, and they'll run away with it, and the shark will chase them, and they'll drop it. The shark will eat it, and then they'll cut back around. And it's all about movement. So there's a lot of big movement. There's big things moving around. How's it going to pick you out when you come over and you're just gliding down the ledge? But if you don't have anything like that, and it's one big fish it's been a bit timid, and then it's coming and moving in, and you've come too early, and then it sees you, that's very often when you'll go to those ledges and you'll be like, there's a big fish there, and it's only on the outskirts. It's only ever on the outskirts. And it never comes in, and that's because you've been seen 100%.
Yeah, right.
I know it. Like I've seen it so many times. I'm like, no, that fish has either seen me when I've been up on the surface or something's given me away. It's caught a bit of movement and it may move in, but it's going to be so wary when you move that gun. It'll bolt.
I want you to think about the last sort of 3 or 4 guys that you've taken out to teach them a bit about the art of snapper hunting. If you had like 5 minutes to give them a like pretty thorough briefing on what you would like from them in the water in terms of coming out diving with you and doing what you do and not going past the ledge so that it spooks everything, like you sort of say. Can you sort of condense that down into a briefing of what you would like them to know before they come out with you?
Okay, so you're not going to be out moving around spots all day. You're not going to have so hunting this, hunting that, moving there, checking this. Sometimes you got to dedicate 3 to 4 hours to the one small zone, and it may not pay off. And I think a lot of people, this is sort of digressing a little bit, but a lot of people get in touch with me from areas where there's more species, like maybe even over in Aussie in a similar belt that might be holding quite good fish. But there's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of different species. Whereas I have to ignore everything, including kingfish that are coming up to me on those spots. Everything. And then going back off the list. If I know that there's good fish there and I begin to feed them, I will go back and I'll just wait and wait. Very often when I'm diving with guys who I don't really know, they'll bring the boat around after 2 or 3 hours and be like, where on earth have you been? And I'll be like, I'm halfway there. Just wait. So it's the first thing is just increase your patience way more than you think you have to, way more than you used to. And secondly would be just to think about vision lines where you might get seen, because sometimes you can be tempted, and I do it a lot. I get tempted just to go, I'm not going to dive to get into the kelp to look over that one, and then you kind of go out and over. And these fish, they blend in so well. Like they're a big red fish out of the water, but down there they're purple and brown and dark, and they blend right into that stuff. You'll have a 10-kilo fish that you can swim over, and it'll take you a little while to catch it in some conditions. So, patience and just a bit of thought around the dynamics of sight lines.
Recently I was out, and this is off Southeast Queensland. Snapper hunting's a bit different off here, but Tim McDonald does it regularly, and he has some big advice on his videos about it. I don't know if you've seen some of them, but he talks about, you if you're hunting snapper, you're hunting snapper. You're not hunting anything else. So very similar to what you just said. I've come across them recently, and I had a school of more than 100 fish, average size about 4 kilo, max size probably over 5, minimum size around 3. Big, huge school. I was in about 16 meters of water, which is, if I'm just being candid, which I not normally am, about depths and stuff, because it's stupid to talk about depths with spearfishing most of the time because it encourages the wrong kind of thinking. But just for the sake of this conversation, 16 meters, fairly comfortable diving for me, but moderate current, just very moderate, enough that it's a pain in the ass for a good relaxed breathe up, but fairly open country. Like,
that's the problem.
And so they know I'm there from the start, and like I can see them all. It's like, doesn't matter how wicked my hunting technique is. By the time I get to the bottom, they've swum 40 meters away and probably into current as well. So my chances of getting them or arousing their curiosity to get them to turn and come back in are friggin' between 0 and none.
Yeah. And that's for me in those circumstances here. That's when I employ techniques to take advantage of stupidity. The fish has to make a mistake. I'm not bottom timing them at 16 meters. Like to get the fish that I want out of the school, particularly, and respect to anyone that does, but that's
Tim does. He's a freaking weapon.
I've seen them do it. Yeah. Like, and a lot of the guys that hunt in that style. I've shot fish at about that depth and like 16 pounders in total open blue water.
Wow.
And like I glide and I'm watching where they're moving, and they're kind of when they might sort of catch on, or they might be drifting, and you got to continually just move in position so that you're going to be sinking down without any big movements. And I try to get right on top of them. And I've had a 16-pounder turn and charge my spear and smack into it. I pushed away and shot it. Well, there's 3 sharks around me, so it obviously didn't quite know what I was because it was fully sun blinded. I've had quite a few other ones. When I see them, I try to get on top of them. A big school's got a lot of eyes. So it's very different type of hunting to what I'm doing, where I'm being concealed. And yeah, kudos to people that are shooting them and like that.
I was excited to see them. I just had zero chance.
I mean, that's an absolutely enormous school. I mean, the first thing I do when I do see big schools like that during broadcast, and I have actually gotten down to their level and had a female come up past me, dumping roe, and I've seen all the boys jousting and dumping melt into her roe cloud, which is amazing to have them right past me. But
just fish jizzing on you.
Yeah, just jizzing and roe and jizz and just the whole thing. It's actually it's a very rare sight to see a snapper spawn like that. But I'll get kinner, or I'll get an urchin, or do something, and I'll just drop it. And what I do with a school like that is I'd encourage them to a few dumb fish to be in there making mistakes, just hoping that they're hungry enough to sink down on top of one, or even a flasher. To be honest, you can get them to move in on a flasher, depending on what they're doing. But yeah, and that's the thing about their range is like a lot of the guys in Aussie are like, oh yeah, you're so lucky there. You got we're lucky because we're in the core of their range. I mean, I have a lot of guys in the Bay of Plenty that are like, God, I'm really struggling, and that's only compare that to the Aussie coastline.
Yeah.
Is that, and there's no snapper there, and the whole of South Island there's no snapper. So from where I am, north gets better and better and better. So we're lucky here with our biome. We have a guttery, deep exits, lots of kelp to hide in behind, and we're in a very good part of the snapper's range.
They're trying to protect some of the core spawning grounds too, aren't they? Is that what I heard? Are they doing a good job, fisheries there with snapper?
I mean, we had I don't know how many 100 big fish 1,000 maybe, big fish washing up between. Do you know Cape Rodney or Omaha?
Nah.
One day we were Cape Rodney, all the way down through Omaha, north of Auckland, and then the Tawharanui, and then Kowau, which is, I mean, it's a massive stretch. There was big fish just littered everywhere, and I think it was a refrigeration issue from one commercial vessel.
Oh,
so, and this is part of the thing. Well, you're shooting the breeders, and I'm like, well, who's buying the fish? Yeah. They're getting absolutely pillaged.
I want to read out this comment. I went through your Instagram. This guy says, I'm a bit gutted by your attitude towards preservation of big snaps. You actually reckon it's legit to just mooch a hunt and strip the coastline's big fish. And you were very graceful in your response, because I don't feel like he was rude with his comment. And he wasn't. He legit posed a decent query from his point of view. Expand.
Well, this is what I get all the time, and I get it. So we have a thing here in New Zealand, which is what you're taking the breeders, that they're firstly they're breeders, and secondly they taste disgusting. And they're both untrue. Taste disgusting thing especially, and the breeding thing is far more complex. Like, I've got marine biologists. I'm on and off emails all of the time trying to get information on. I mean, it is just so complex. And I want to know where to feel guilt. I want to expand on the amount of gray area all the way through this, instead of just being like, oh, the breeders. Like, I've asked people that use that breeder comment if they understand anything about how fish spawn, and they don't understand. So
I still have a very limited understanding. Well, where does the nuance come into this? Like, there's a commonly held preconception amongst the spearfishing community and recreational fish shows in general, that the larger the fish become, the more fecund. Is that untrue?
Depending. there's a lot of real strange information that I'm being sent. So snapper are a species that so once that they're all female and then they mature and the males turn. It's about half. The males turn male and they can't reverse. A female will dump her roe, and males will joust to fertilize her milk, like her roe cloud. They'll dump milk. And half a dozen or so males will do that. And there's evidence to suggest that some of the sneakier, smaller males can actually develop a tactic where be able to dump more and get closer to have a better chance. And there's some species overseas that are being studied that have shown that can actually stuff up the populations a little bit because they don't have the builds to get big enough. So I put what it's called in my last video. There's there is so much craziness in the biology, and I'm just trying to basically get a grasp on it. And my whole thing is, instead of, why don't we open the topic for conversation instead of saying, oh, you're shooting a breeder? And why if I kill a large male snapper, would someone say, oh, you're taking all the breeders, when you might have half a dozen fish getting involved in fertilizing that cloud, if you know what I mean? You could feel guilt all the way through. But what I say, you feel guilt about shooting a big female fish because you've taken a lot of eggs out. And also I've got some data and spreadsheets and things, I don't have it off the top of my head, on the amount of eggs that they're carrying to the size. So maybe two I can't remember how many, what the kilo difference is there, but all I know is that there's a lot more nuance, and I think that you got to figure out where your hunger has to override your guilt in the scheme of hunting as well, and where to cut your bloodlust off. And admitting to how much, like for me, it's like as I said to people, I'm probably killing my daily limit 2 times over in a year. So
how many are you allowed in New Zealand, or is it
7.
different? Is it managed different to different zones, or is it?
Yeah, up here in Auckland, we got, I believe we're still at 7.
Okay.
And there's this huge thing that it's like, okay, so me, I'll go out and kill, let's say I go out and kill a male and a female of one of quite good sized fish, not huge, but probably under 20 pound. And then I could have another option of taking, 4 smaller females and 3 males out, and they never get the chance to get big. And everyone thinks it's okay to go out and catch binfuls of small fish.
Yeah.
But what's the difference between a small fish and a big fish? It's nothing. It's just time. And we're taking time out of that equation.
Yeah.
So there's some of the gray areas that I'm trying to create conversation about.
So let's talk about barotrauma as well then, since we're already there and we've already entered into a shit fight. Might as well keep going with it. Like in Australia, recently in WA, there's a couple of species over there like jewfish, DHUFISH, and and in Bulch and Groper, I believe they've removed the size limits due to their poor survival rates from barotrauma. So being hauled up by a line fisherman, and it basically causes enough barotrauma that their catch and release rates are terrible. The mortality, they're going to die basically if you've caught them from beyond 10, 15 meters. So they removed the minimum size limits in an effort to get fishermen to injure and kill less fish, basically. But for spearos, we should still have size limits. Line fishermen arguably shouldn't for some species, but then spearos should. But our fisheries rules, you don't want too much complexity, then it's too hard to become educated as well. There's kind of this big conversations going on here. Speak to that if you can.
Well, I mean, all I can talk on is the barotrauma and snapper. So when I received this grief, one comment that I had was, it's never okay to take one single snapper out of the Hauraki Gulf. And we'll look back at the thousands of the commercial fishery, which is just the main thing. But I looked into this guy's profile, and it was just 20 pounder up to 20 pounder up to 20 pounder. I had people, so I've got research coming in. I can't say who. I know it'll be being published. As soon as it's published, as soon as it's published, I'm going to make it public on all my stories. But so I have quite a few people messaging me who are like, here's some information. I really enjoy what you do. Blah, 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 blah. Please keep my name out of it for now, which is handy, but not handy. So essentially the latest study on snapper that I can speak about, but we don't have the data yet, but it is coming, including apparently video is coming as well, is that snapper caught past 14 meters are, and they've given me the whole method on how this was carried out. And I've also given that method to other people in the science community. So does it seem legit to you? And they're like, yeah. Past 14 meters is a death sentence. Even if snapper appear to swim down okay, they can be rolling and tumbling for up to 7 days. They don't have the energy to stabilize themselves, and they die, or the bronzies get them, or just. And then, as far as I'm aware, I mean, grain of salt. I'm getting emailed this stuff, but I believe it when the information comes out. That's what it's going to reflect. So,
commercials have a far smaller size limit in New Zealand. I don't like shit all over any form of fishing. I think it's great that everyone's got access to fish. To be fair, and I know commercial fishermen and line fishermen. It's a tough cookie to swallow. I think that none of them caught past 14 is going to survive. So what it means is, what it really means for line fishermen and for fisheries management in New Zealand is arguably, if you're fishing for snapper, then we should remove size limits if you're line fishing. And
for now, what I'm saying is, okay, well, you don't have to lay off me. You can throw all the crap you want at me. I can take it. But that fish that you caught past 14, eat it. Yeah. Like, just eat the thing. Don't put it back to die.
You get angry with a particular cohort of line fishermen that are the no release, no glory crew. Is that correct?
Well, I just get angry with, it's the
double
it's hard because they believe it. So I can't say I'm angry at them because there's probably things that I believe that are fully untrue and weird. But, so it's just a matter of me. I'm trying to educate. I made it a big point of it. I'm like, breeders. This is it. And I try my best to go out of my way to, if I'm speaking to a comment, to speak to everyone. Because I love diving through it all and go there, and it just makes people think. And I don't know everything, but I've got a very critical. I love fence sitting. I'm very good at critical thinking and sort of removing any of my biases from it.
Yeah.
And then, I do have a bias towards killing big fish because I love eating them. So I have to admit to that bias. I'm quite happy to.
But if you declare your bias, then it makes you more. It makes you seem more. You know what I mean? Like if we all watch mainstream news and they declared their upfront biases or their the bias in general of their particular media station, then you would quite happily listen to what they have to say. If someone's unprepared to admit their bias, that's when we all think it's disingenuous and don't trust them.
Yeah. But and also I'm very happy to tell. And the truth for me is that if I shoot too big snapper, pulling the trigger on a third, I find difficult. I do find it difficult. I like to just watch them from there. There is a day where I've actually taken my limit. It doesn't feel right to me. So I'd like to encourage that. There's only so much I can say, and my voice can only go so far.
Yeah,
and sort of that's why I'm very glad to be. I'm like, I've come out of the crap and back on social media because the younger people that are coming in, I can say, well, look, my theory is don't overdo it. If you get very good at it, don't overdo it. No one's mentioning kingfish. We'll speak to Darren Shields and those boys from back in the day. They're like the kingies. The sizes are just, the change has just been massive.
Yeah.
I was
shifting baseline phenomena, I think they call it too. But it's also like you say, the only difference between a small fish and a big fish is time. And a lot of them, if we're not allowing them to get, or we're not allowing a segment of the population to get big, then eventually over time they do. The fish just get smaller and smaller.
Yeah. And if you cut the rug out from under them, everyone's going, where are the big fish in this amount of time? Will be 6 feet by then. But it's that's something that I'm trying to instill into it as well. But they're defending their bias as well. And their bias is that they love to catch fish. And it's
I always honestly thought that catching fish and not eating them is probably one of the stupidest things you can do. But that's my bias. Like even when I didn't think
you'd say that, but I agree with that.
No. I always thought that. Like I think it's ridiculous. Like if I catch something, I want to eat it. I never really truly understood catch and release. Like I only think it's fun to catch something if you're actually going to eat it. If you're putting it back, I always looked at people putting stuff back, and I was like, oh.
Why are you playing with your food? Like it's like me putting a rope in the bush and wrangling a deer, and then being like, all right,
off you go,
stressed.
Yeah,
stressed and
I've just distressed an animal and put it in a situation that's possibly critically endangered it for the point of my enjoyment. Like to me, that's more sick than catching something and eating it.
Yeah. So you've
yes, but I don't.
You're going to offend a lot of people saying that.
Yes, probably.
Well, I'm glad you did, because the thing is that I think that it's like you're just playing with your food. It's this very weird thing. Like you're giving. This animal that's been around for 60 years now has the chance to just swallow a hook into its guts and die and get covered in sunscreen and get barotrauma and get munched up by a bronzy.
I'll take it back. If you're a catch and release blue grouper fisherman in New South Wales, I think that's understandable. Well, it actually has to be now, because those poor bastards aren't even allowed to catch them, not even the line fishermen. And that is anthropomorphism at its maximum. I don't think that there's a fisheries guy in New South Wales that would say, oh, nah, the response to that guy shooting a blue groper off the rocks in Sydney is a completely rational response to that situation. Like, holy shit.
Was that the fish? What did he do? He shot
a Spearo got in, admittedly a very new and very green Spearo. He jumped in off these rocks, shot a blue groper, came in. He was stoked. This guy just did not know. And then he's holding up his fish. Like this lady literally said, oh, can you hold up your fish and I'll take a photo? And she deliberately set him up. He was stoked. He's smiling. He's holding it up. And she was like an activist person who sent it into the local media. And then her story was, my whole family's been swimming in this area and we've been swimming and taking photos of Gus for, generations or whatever. This fish was not Gus. Like that's the problem. Hundreds of thousands of those fish.
There's a million Brutus sharks. There's a million Gusses.
Yes, yeah. And
I've got monkey face on the wall. I've got guys threatening me because I've got a snapper on the wall out there. They think it's the one from Goat Island because it's got a hump on its head. I'm like, well, it's not.
You should put a little plaque under it saying the last Goat Island snapper.
God, if it was monkey face, it'd be brilliant. That thing was absolutely enormous.
Was that it's a recognizable fish in that area, is it?
Yeah, I don't know if it's dead now, but it was just a beast. We were around 26, 27 pounds, maybe even more. Big, disgusting nose on it, big head. The one I've got out there it's just a nice flat nose and a big hump. Very nice, sharp head.
Like an Aussie one.
Yeah, not as intense, but a really, really nice looking fish for here.
Do you understand the different genetic families of because Chrysalis auratus, isn't it? But the New Zealand snapper is genetically distinct from the Aussie one, isn't it?
It's I thought it was all Australasian snapper. I can't remember the scientific name for it.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, Chrysalis auratus, I think it's called.
I thought it would begin with a P. Like something.
Pagris auratus. That's it.
Yeah. I
sorry.
thought it was the same, but just looks slightly different because of the biome. I don't know.
Yeah. Pagris auratus, silver seabrim.
Yeah.
It's a species of porgy, apparently.
Yeah, up through Japan and sort of everywhere. And looks a little bit like, I guess, like Dentexy.
Yeah. And it's another one of those silly names. Like we call it a snapper, but it's not Legenidae. It's like, I don't know. I don't know how this stuff ever happened, but
yeah. So, I mean, that catch and release thing is it's just so funny you said that because I think I had that thought today in the gym. Because I hadn't really thought about it. And then I thought, Why?
Yeah, well, I remember, like, and I've seen lots and lots of fishing shows, and New Zealand have got some great ones, and I honestly love people that love fishing. But for me personally, and I don't mean to be such a horrible prick, but I always just wondered, like with trout fishing, when you're sight casting and stuff like that, I can kind of understand it because it's like,
so can I, yeah.
But for I don't know, like, why would I want to catch a big kingy? Spend 10 minutes pulling it in to put it out again. I was always like, well, wouldn't you just catch your one or two fish and then just go, well, sweet, let's just enjoy the water and go have a look somewhere? Or
that's why. So what I said to the guys, like, you got so much dedication to these species, saying that none of them in the Hauraki Gulf should ever be. There's no reason to kill a snapper ever in the Hauraki Gulf. I reckon he had 20 big ones on the deck on his Instagram. Holding them with bare hands. We know the whole oil gland thing. We know they're not supposed to be handled like that and all the rest of it. I said, why don't you spend the next 3 years learning how to film them and photograph them and in their natural environment because it's going to take you 3 years to even be able to start to get close to them.
I really respect guys that do that. Like, they just film wicked species, because if you can film those species, you can definitely hunt them. There's a guy up here on the Central Coast, Johnny Mitchell's his name. He's got some just wicked footage of, like, big black spot tuskies and coral trout, and they, just hanging out and just watching them for like a 30-second sequence. And you're like, so not only is he able to get them on film, but then he's actually, holding bottom time to film them, which is friggin' awesome.
It makes you an amazing hunter. I think I'd be better now if I had bigger segments of just dedicated filming. Some of my best hunting's been after dedicated filming of fish, because you have to learn quite a few different techniques to get in, and you push in a bit closer and a bit tighter, and then you get to watch what's happening way after the shot would have been. It's a very different thing to that. I got to get that. There's that one moment, because you're looking for a good 20-second moment. I really love it. That's what I will talk to the Spearo Diaries girls about too. So
sick. So that's funny that I chatted with them this morning and then you just chatted with them the other day. There's a bit of synchronicity going on there.
We talked quite a lot about the fibromyalgia thing too, because is it Lauren?
No, Laura and Elise.
Sorry, Laura and Elise. It's my memory. Laura was, she's quite open about that too, and going through. So me and her bounced off each other about sort of CFS and things like that. So, and it's a lot more common than people think.
Yes.
So I thought I'd,
that. It's good.
And they're good. Hard case.
To make the most of your spearfishing trip, charter or competition, I am putting together a 50-day Spear Ready program so that I can be in the best condition to make the most of this WA comp. It's a big swim comp, shore-based, and big swims for the day. I am not carrying a hell of a lot of physical conditioning because just due to my life and lifestyle, pretty busy with 4 kids. So this program will be 100% focused on action. And I thought, since I'm doing it, why not take a whole bunch of other people along for the ride? It's a 50-day program incorporating strength and conditioning, nutrition, dry and pull training, and everything else with a bunch of experts. I reached out to a whole bunch of legends I know, like Adam Stern, Jared Rosenberg, strength and conditioning coach, and we put together this program basically to get the most out of our bodies and make the most of these opportunities. Sometimes they're only once in a lifetime. You really want to arrive in the best possible condition that you can be. So Spear Ready, 50-day program to help you gear up. Go register noobspearo.com/Spear Ready.
As soon as I say anything about freediving safety, I can hear the eye rolls from across the podcast. In fact, you're probably thinking, but Tad, I've never had a problem. I don't push myself. I'm in tune with my body. I know my limits. What is 100% true about that statement is you can always say that statement unless you died from a blackout. You've probably heard of someone in your local waters that died from a blackout, and they used to be able to say the same thing, and then they blacked out and they died, and they can no longer say that. That's the way that argument works. My name is Ted Hardy. I'm the founder of Immersion Freediving, and my goal is to do more to stop fatalities from shallow water blackout than any other person on the planet. I never liked the idea that the information on how to not kill yourself while spearfishing was gated behind the paywall of a freediving course. What if there's no instructor within 200 miles? What if you can't afford a course? What if you can't get time off work? So sad, too bad, you just don't get access to the information needed to dive safely? That's why I created freedivingsafety.com. It's a free course that will teach you how to reduce your risk of having a blackout and teach you how to save your buddy's life if they had a blackout. dive safe out there. It's not even that hard, especially when you can learn for free at freedivingsafety.com.
I just love a functional and simple spear gun that I can trust when I pull the trigger. Killshot spear guns utilize the finest of kiln-dried Burmese teak. Killshot spear guns also combine American-made parts and fine craftsmanship to bring you accurate, reliable, and simple spear guns that you can trust. Fish after fish. Get $30 off any Killshot spear gun at killshotspearguns.com. Yes and amen, Noober. That's $30 off American-made performance spear guns at killshotspearguns.com. I'm really sorry for this terrible accent. Brought to you by Ed Martin at killshotspearguns.com.
You've got a crowdfunding campaign coming up. Is that right?
Yes. Si, senor. I fully forgot about that, and that's actually stressing me out. That is stressing me out.
So if you go to Luke's Instagram, guys, you'll see a bit of a concept wetsuit up there that he's kind of been testing for a few years. It's got that frothy design on the back, and it looks cool. There's a couple of features in the suit that are a bit different than what we've got on the market. I like the high-vis. Are they high-vis stripes on the bottom of the legs?
Yeah, they're like a reflective, not really reflective, but they're like a white, like a really bright white on the back of the legs. So I just put that in for approval. I have been flat tack. So I had to get my friend on board. And then obviously I've been working with a designer. I mean, I was working on that for 4 years, and it was like I just needed to make something of my own. I was like, I got to make something of my own. I got to go getting headaches and all sorts of different bits and pieces. And I mean, I run over them all, but the features just ended up piling up, and using the limestone Yamamoto and all the bits and pieces. And then we're like, well, if we want to run we can get these to people. Because people were asking about them.
But a minimum order quantity is like 200 suits.
300.
And, even like, and then you think, okay, 300, and then you look at your cost price, and then you go, how long really is the shelf life of a wetsuit sitting in a container, or you got a storage issue, and then you've got to deliver them. You can see why it's a distinct barrier to entry for a lot of people. I know, because I've also looked at it.
I mean, the planning has been... Yeah, it's not like nothing I've ever done before, but I'm just lucky. Like Henry, who said that I was psychotic when I came out the gate before. I actually got him on board, and he's been training me at the gym too, and he's brilliant. Very like he's got a master's in business, and he's got connections with shipping logistics. Just really stoic. Like he'll work, all day, and so we just figured absolutely everything out. Did all the calculations, figured out exactly what we need. Like if this thing, I mean, everyone can see all of there's about 12 plus sort of features that I've put on there. But for this thing to work, we're going to be running it like costs for like maybe 2 years, maybe look at profit in 3 years if it does work. However, that's going to be the only way to gauge the market. So we're going to have a crack at it and see how we go. I mean, it's definitely worth. It's just like, well, why not? Really, that's our thing at this point. And they're brilliant suits.
Yeah. One thing I looked at when I was doing mine, and mine, the reason I'm talking about it is because it's only ever going to remain a concept. Because I sort of costed it all out and looked at it, and I think if you're going to do it and do it well, you've got to invest like you're saying, like it's a 2-3 year sort of journey. Yeah. And then who knows if it works, you're still throwing something against the wall, which I always try to give time to spearfishing creators, because it's like people don't realize how much you pour into a project like this, but hats off to you. So the two things I wanted was a knife pocket and then another pocket for a blow up safety sausage with maybe a mirror and a whistle in it as well, or a tourniquet. But I like integrated pouches in a wetsuit bottom. I like getting shit off my weight belt, or like some weight harnesses have got integrated pockets, like my mate Spurts from Old Man Blue. But like I like getting some stuff off the weight belt, because like even a dive knife on your weight belt, like it's a pain in the ass when you bend at the waist. Like
and if you have a bit of rail line or something come past it, if you shoot something good,
Mm.
and it gets caught, or a shark, a bit of dynamo goes through it, and you get a shark grab the fish.
Yeah.
I put on ambidextrous ones, and
Yep.
then a little one up there as well. I
Nice.
just stuff things in there. I don't find rubbish, just stuff it in. Or
Yes.
flasher or blimmin' anything. We've got a torch, we've got
Fishing line.
do a bit of that. Yeah, catch and release off the thing. Clean all that up. Been cleaning a bit of that up and getting tangled in it.
Yeah.
No,
We can't. I can't poo-poo too much over our other
Yeah.
brothers that like fishing, but because
That's fine.
we're laughing at it, and I think it's gentle, light-hearted banter. One thing I will say, I want to say, and I wanted to touch on it. All of us that are in the recreational fishing scene are in it together, and I think it's good when we can kind of be honest about our shortcomings, whether we're spearos or linos or whatever. But we are in it together when it comes to sit a seat at the table with fisheries management and stuff.
I have far more in common with a catch and release fisherman than I do with someone
Auckland
that lives
vegan.
on carrots. Yeah, yeah, like someone that
Karen.
goes to the cocktail bars in Queen Street Ponsonby every night. So
Ponsonby.
yeah, I mean that's but it's just the one thing. Like we're quite happy to say, I don't understand this. Well, maybe if we thought about it a bit better, we probably do. I guess there's a nice bit of adrenaline to it. And how do we continue to put ourselves back on on the right side?
Well, I actually, while we're being shit stirrers, I'm going to shit stir you some more. And maybe another bloke that's been on the podcast. We might have to edit this out if it gets too awkward. On your Out the Gate series, there's a bit of a riff there from Ollie that you included. And I wanted to hear why you included it, and your take on COVID, if you would be so bold.
Oh God. What? There's actually a couple. There's another hidden one.
Okay.
This will make you go for a look. But that one, you don't want to bring that one in. Oh, it's because of that yarn. Yeah, I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So
I thought he was spot on in his defense.
Yeah, I don't know. That's so he was I can't even remember what it was. This is how the Nazis got in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no. Not quite.
Yeah.
There was. I know a lot about World War II, and it was a little bit different. But we won't. I mean, with the politics and things at the moment, I don't think we should go into that. But my thing was like, what have I got? And I was like, okay, what kind of information do I got? What do I feel like riffing on today? What's the thing that's going to make me laugh today? There's a little bit of like I had that there kind of was made a few like circles within group chats, and I was like. And I like things to be like kind of mild and then like something really hard hitting. And I was like, what's going to be hard hitting? And I was like, well, I've got the dynamic of these two guys. I've got
the
Ollie
doctor
talking about his opinion
New Zealand Health Minister, was it?
Yeah, and then I have the Health Minister, and the Health Minister would never say what he said.
Yeah.
How many layers of irony is this?
Yeah.
On. And me trying to do that, I was like, could I do the Health Minister's voice as a rebuttal to what he's saying?
Yeah.
And also having him talking in the background with that stupid music. And it was just ideas are just continuous. And I was like, it's just that had to happen. I just thought, bugger, I'll do it.
Have you met him in person?
I don't know. No, I don't think I have.
No.
I used to talk quite a lot back in the day. But yeah, no.
All right, cool. Well, I thought I'd just have a shit story and ask the question.
I have at it. I'm open to it. I created it. There's a lot in there, right? There's a lot going on in there.
Well, the other thing you riffed on was Joe Biden with his terrible accent and just nonsense.
And just absolute nonsense.
Yeah, and then it was kind of remarkably prophetic given, the last presidential debate and stuff.
Yeah. I can't even remember what, but I was talking about like we were like an alien.
Yeah.
Like drinking, they were drinking from it. And
yeah. They were milking us.
Yeah. The stuff's just, I love it. It's what goes on in the background when I'm not thinking about diving.
Yeah, there are a couple of episodes there where I definitely urinated a little bit.
Did you get a laugh?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's the main thing, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when you put something like that out there, I'm like, that's my style of comedy. I'm like, I can't change it.
No.
And what I really love too is like I'd make like 3-minute cinematics that would I try to make something as beautiful as I could and just end it with like a really foul, just something that's just like, like Warwick. What a fucking shithole! Like to his brother's house. He's just going through the most gorgeous scenery with like going down the rivers in Australia with lightning storms and fires and birds and a full audio experience as well.
Yeah. Nah, it was cool. There's a lot going on there. What technology did you use just quickly?
Well, that was Midjourney AI. So if I was to continue something like that, I'd probably look at Unreal Engine or something like that to get more movement and things like that. But Midjourney AI was the pioneering one during that time.
Yeah.
And then I'd just use Photoshop, and then I'd use like a face app that it could record my face.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the technology of my own accent attempts.
Oh, some of them were so good. It was cool.
I couldn't believe it when they came. I was like, that doesn't sound like me. People are like, who are you getting on? I was like, that was all me.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Well, when you did it, I think I reached out and I was like, hey, if you need some more crazy voices or something, like I'm happy to do a bit. Like,
yeah, I mean, Jared Wright did one.
Yeah.
It.
Yeah, right.
From the Big Les show. He did he did Sassy in one of the episodes.
Yeah, okay.
Which I was very surprised with. I mean, he's just massive. And he was saying he was getting a good laugh, so
yeah. Yeah, well, that was what I was getting out of it too. I wanted to say to you, like, this is way off topic, off our spearfishing topic, but it's just a good conversation. I had a crack at stand-up. So I went and lived in China for a few years ago, and stayed there for a year teaching English. And I was in a bar one night, and I'd been doing the Noob Spearo for like 5 years. And this bloke was like, oh, what other sort of ideas have you got for stuff? And I was like, oh, I really want to do a podcast about getting out of your comfort zone. I actually thought I'd do like a series-based one. I said the first one would be like a bunch of us get together to do stand-up comedy. We train together for sort of like 6 weeks. And then put on a performance for a bunch of people as first-time stand-up comics, and then sort of interview all the comics, record all the performances, and then, put it all together. And I did it. Like, I woke up the next morning, and he had started a social media group on WeChat called Stand-Up Comedy. He had invited like 300-odd expats to this thing. About a dozen people showed up, and 8 of us ended up doing this show. And I've still got all that audio just sitting there. I did a 10-minute set with one of the finishing bits about, like an Aussie rooting a sheep or something. Had zero contextual relevance to China or most of the people there. But it was my crowning joke. But it was just like,
did you enjoy it?
I really did. I would do it again too. And the
do you go dark or?
Nah, I'm pretty tame. Really? I'm like dad joke lame, Luke. Like, I appreciate humor, but sometimes my humor is probably a little bit dry and predictable.
Yeah. I like dark, but I like witty dark. Like, not just dark for the sake of it,
Yeah.
I find that a little bit cringe.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
me too.
Timing.
I mean, like kids on a school bus heading off a cliff or something. It's like,
Yeah,
like,
we get it. Yeah.
Yeah, but like in order to set up a joke, sometimes you have the premise or the finish before you actually write the joke, And,
yeah.
But I do have an appreciation for it. But yeah, like you say, it's got to have a point. Same as filthy stuff. Like filthy's good too, but filthy for the sake of filthy's like not normal.
Yeah. I've been noticing a lot of that too. And it's like, I mean, it's a different crowd.
Yeah.
But yeah, me and Henry sit here and it's almost like counseling, or we've just been riffing on these mics and we talk about all sorts of things, like that one guy that just died at Burning Man. So what did he die of? And he goes, I don't know, boredom. Just died at the back somewhere. And then we've had a whole range. We've got the one huge episode. This is kind of crazy, but a 2-hour episode on how he, and this is a true story, a 50-plus-year-old man, a big 130-kilo concreter, tried to groom him when he was about 15.
Wow.
And he got diabetes, the guy, and lost his leg and a few of his, and went blind. And Henry ended up looking after the guy until he died. And
there's a lot of opportunities for jokes there.
The story is just unbelievable. And I listened to the whole thing. Thought it was just sitting here because we'd podcasted it, and there's hilarity through the darkness and the carnage of this. Like the guy getting his ACC ramp installed and Henry not knowing how to use it and accidentally dropping him face first onto his driveway and like, just heaps of just, it's absolutely nuts. Just,
Henry said, is that podcast up and out? Is it on?
That one is. It's called.
What's it called?
It's on SoundCloud. I should send it to you. It's called My Friend John.
My friend John.
John was his name. Rest in peace. And Henry was like 15, 16, taking this guy to get them and cysts burst, and the doctor at A&E would be like, "This is a 2-man job. You got to help me and shit." And he'd be going home and having to deal with all the heaviness of it all. And we're just like, I'm just like, you've been really. This is the first counselling session on this, and you're doing it with me on this podcast. But now we're working together on the. We've been stalled up by the building the. He's come onto my team for the wetsuits. But hopefully we can keep doing that. And one thing you say about stand-up is I want to do more spearfishing talks to crowds.
Yep.
I'm always extremely nervous, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to say. But then there's times where I've got a whole crowd laughing, and I'm like, that felt really good, you know?
We touched on it earlier. Like, this is a very circular conversation, and mostly off spearfishing topic, which has actually been pretty cool. But I actually had the same thing as you, and I've had 200 people in a room pissing themselves, and then I've had 100 people at a wedding like feeling sorry for me because I'm so awkward and can't keep my hands still, and and it's funny when you run a podcast, people actually think that you're going to be super confident when you stand up and talk in front of a big group of people, but like the reality is I'm not. But one of my therapists, the main like therapist, if you like, he practices a form of therapy called internal family systems. Have you heard of that?
No.
If when you first come across the idea, you'll be like, oh, this sounds a bit fruity, but then you go down the rabbit hole and you sort of get a 10-minute intro to it. You'll be like, oh, this is intriguing. And when you actually go and do it, it's really interesting. But one of the techniques this guy taught me related to that was like, there's parts of you, right? And they're almost like people. And that, earlier we were talking about that childlike creative person inside of you, and the ego comes, and then generally there's another part of you that's like very risk averse, and it's because it's been informed of all the fuck ups you've ever made in your life and all the things you've done wrong where you've looked foolish and embarrassed and humiliated, and mostly we hate those emotions. So that voice from that part of you can be really loud, and it'll drown out any competency, and it makes you feel like an imposter and like you're going to do something to make you feel embarrassment or humiliation. So this strategy this guy talked me through was basically like a self-talk process where you channel a part of you that is able to put those voices that distract you from just being you and delivering on the moment in the background. And and I actually also borrowed from, did you ever hear the shot process guy on Joe Rogan, Joel Turner? He's talking about an archery shot process.
No, I didn't.
Between that and this internal family systems, I sort of synergize these two ideas, and I've created my own little 5-step process. And what it does is it allows me to show up in public speaking situations with a lot more intent and a lot less of the bullshit that stopped me, what's derailed me in the past.
Is that in comedy situations or just speaking?
Any situation. Like live interviews are really intimidating because you get up and, I don't know, there's so many ways you can do that stuff wrong. You just want to deliver for people, and the voices inside you that are saying, hey, look, you're going to embarrass yourself, you're a moron. They're not actually helping you. They actually make you be a moron when you are, and so I'll send you that after, but like,
I think it's crowd dependent too. Cause I feel like I visualize the wrong crowd. And then it's like, it's like, oh God, it makes me think of a joke I come up with. I probably shouldn't say it. No, maybe not. Well, yeah. Okay.
I feel like for me, like the process is an internal one. It's never really about the crowd in front of me. If I start thinking about the crowd when I'm trying to be myself and just deliver what I've already planned to deliver, that's when I come unstuck, because I'm a real monotasker. So I need to focus on my game and what I'm doing. And there's space in what I'm doing to sort of take on feedback, but it's a very like difficult thing. And I think kind of grew up with some fears about public speaking, which is probably why it's made me think a lot about that process.
I reckon I could get up in front of 100 people I know that are there to see me talk about spearfishing and just wing it on 5 points for 3 hours. But I reckon if I had to talk in front of my mother's side of the family for 1 minute, I'd die. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I mean. And then when I've thought about stand-up, for some reason, this is what's holding me back, and this is probably part of it. You probably help me out there, is that I'm there for comedy. And I'm like, that feels too...
canned.
I don't know. Yeah, but also working on a routine. There's bits where I've taken notes and done things and that, but it's like sometimes I also worry about the CFS, circular here, is that sometimes the brain is just not there. And it's like, you kind of, it's so hard to plan your life with...
brain fog.
Yeah, the brain fog.
I know exactly what you mean. I've had times of it too, for sure.
Yeah. And then, what do they call it? It's like it's motor neuron something when it comes to depression. Okay. Motor neuron retardation. That's what I was supposed to say earlier.
Okay.
That's when you notice yourself slowing down, and it is because of a neurotransmitter issue, and it is a huge symptom of depression, motor neuron retardation, and you get and people actually get so badly. We're going to go back into this just to get it out. They get so depressed that they actually get off suicide watch when they've got severe motor neuron retardation because they're in bed at hospital. This is for people that don't understand how nasty depression can be. It's biological. They are bedridden because of it's a biological thing going on within their brain. Then there's high suicide watch on the way out when energy is returning, because then they have the energy to actually, physically do something about it. So I thought I'd put that in there while I did that. And then, so that's something that's held me back, and that's probably like a terrible belief. Like, oh shit, what happens if at the time I'm unable?
Yeah.
Maybe one day we should do it. Just do a bloody stand-up.
When you've had performance gaps like that in the past, it does make you wonder whether you're reliable enough to deliver in the moment. And that is a legitimate concern. And I think when you have these sort of concerns, these reasons for not doing stuff, there is a time to sit down, think about it, and analyze it. But then it's like every other form of risk, guys that ask you about sharks, like you're like, yeah, sharks. You're like, after a while, you kind of like you're familiar with them to a point where they're just not a major concern. You just kind of.
That's where I think you're right, is because a lot of the comedians that I listen to, one note I tell you about is that they talk about how much they've failed.
Yeah, bombed.
And they don't care. It's like, well, because obviously their motivation is higher than their fear.
Yeah.
So that's something. There's something certainly that I got when I made Out the Gate, but I had the time to work on timing and preciseness and perfection. Whereas stand-up is a very real in the moment thing. And I guess and a vibe. Like, I guess you'd be getting, if you felt really good, you'd be on that vibe, wouldn't you? You'd be like, hey, things are flowing, and that's all. I guess that's all making mastery, which is hours in there.
If you have a back pain, I reckon this thing is an absolute no-brainer. Check out the Orca harness at oldmanblue.com.au. The Orca harness, a diving weight vest made by Old Man Blue. That's right, you can remove the weights and remove the pressure on your lower back and distribute the weight like a boss. It even makes duck diving easier. Store your safety sausage, whistle, mirror and or knife on the Orca harness and be a safer diver. There's a quick release safety mech. It's 100% Australian made and personally sized. That's right, go and check out the Orca harness. Make back pain a thing of the past at oldmanblue.com.au. Massive thanks to today's sponsor, Dog and Gun Coffee. It's bloody good coffee, ready for adventure. They use specialty grade beans and roasted fresh in Brisbane by a small Aussie team. Their most popular product, and this is one that I love myself, are the preloaded drip filters, which allow you to have cafe quality coffee anywhere. And I use them out on my Strategy spearfishing adventures. It is legit cafe quality coffee that you can make with simple boiling water. Add your own milk and sugar. Well, that's what I do anyway. Their owners, Sean and Rach, are keen hunters in and out of the water and want to encourage more people to get outdoors. That's pretty much the vision of Dog and Gun Coffee. Check it out at dogandguncoffee.com.au. Use the code Noob10 to save 10%. can't get better than that. Go to dogandguncoffee.com.au. Again, hey, I like the Sandbar Dark Roast as well. Check that out at Dog and Gun Coffee. For you, like, where to from here? Like, what? So we've kind of caught up on the life of Luke, and it's been a lively, good yarn. Like, we probably didn't cover everything we should, but where to from here? You got this crowdfunding campaign coming up. You're getting more active again on your YouTube. Where is still Aquatic Rehab on YouTube?
Yeah, Aquatic Rehab on YouTube and Facebook. I've just put 2 brand new videos up. I've got a few more to edit. Short term, night dives to crayfish and bits and pieces. So, the core community is still there, and they're brilliant. You know, like our core community's been very, very. Anyone that seems to latch on to Aquatic Rehab for me has just been really, like, I don't know, they've been really, really good. So essentially, I mean, we'll do the crowdfunding. We're either going to figure out whether we enter the I mean, I could make my job a passion there if we can extend on that over the next few years. If that fails in terms of reaching its goal, we'll probably have to look at other options and go from there. But I guess, yeah, at this point in time, film more, go to the tropics more, try to stay healthier, no alcohol, lift heavier.
Stop being mean to Ollie.
No, that was way done. That was one time. There's more. I was mean to a lot of people. There's Peter Evans. Stop being mean to Peter Evans on there. There's someone else in there too. And
I'm just teasing you.
No, we might get a few views after this. And then, yeah, I don't know. Charters, hopefully.
Yep. You're back on charters?
Yeah. So guiding charters and liverboards, and I'm sort of chatting with Jules and some of the guys down there about the liverboards and
Spearo camp.
Yeah, he's changing it up actually. So, and he's got a big liverboard and a few other things. So if we can get especially for the Aussies to come over, that'd be brilliant because he's got a chef and all sorts, and White Island, Great Barrier, possibly Kings. That'll be expensive and weather dependent, but
yeah,
there's a few of those. Yeah, so that's the sort of. I'm just waiting for summer at this point. Short term.
With your crowdfunding campaign, like, is the easiest way for people to find out about it just following you on your IG?
Yeah. Otherwise, we do have all the information is going to be up on aquaticrehab-spearfishing.com. Okay. That'll be going up very, very shortly. Otherwise, my Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, I'm just going to be plastering it all over there. As soon as it goes live, probably a couple of days.
Nice.
Throw Flashes has come on board.
Nice. They're an Aussie base group, aren't they? I like the look of their Throw Flashes too. They
dance.
Yeah.
So he's sent me a few. So we got like early bird. We got early bird wetsuits. We've got one with like a package deal with an Aquatic Rehab hat and a Throw Flasher, and then another package deal where I'm also doing a talk at a venue up here, and that'll have a link.
Nice.
To a live. Like an unlisted link for people that get involved in that one.
Where's that going to be?
We're looking at a few venues up here. There's actually quite a good venue at RSA in Whakaparoa.
Okay.
I was thinking about doing it there or maybe a hall or something like that, but Henry's going to help me look into that. And one thing I'll say about the whole neurodivergence and the all this stuff is that I was kind of introverted and kind of always I could do things on my own. And it got to the point where I had to admit I can't do all this stuff on my own. I need to build a team. And that's what the psychologist helped me with after the concussion as well. She's like, well, fill the gaps with people that can help.
Yeah.
And I've done that, and that's been really brilliant because it allows me to focus more on where my strengths are, being the talent.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. Like, I think like if you're able to do something long term and it's sustainable, there's always people behind you and around you. And I've kept Noob Spearo going for 10 years, not because I'm brilliant. It's because I've
10 years
or more. Yeah,
wow.
more now. So yeah, it's been cranking. But
that's like awesome.
I've only been able to sustain it because of the people in the background. Like
there was another guy, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was Turbo back in the day. Yeah, I burned him out. He's gone.
Oh, sounds like my life at the moment. I want to get into my
man,
personal life.
people come and people go in life. Yeah, I miss the banter of Turbo, but and I miss his his skills and what he brought to it. But there's always people in the background, always around.
Yeah.
If you're doing anything that lasts a long time,
Yeah, and that's the thing with rehab is it's been like I've tried to always be quite stoic with it, and then even pull back out of being so, like literally thinking it's my diving career is done, and it feels like I've been reborn. It's like to be able to spearfish again is actually quite weird for me. It feels like I've been born into it where I've just got all this skill. I'm like, oh, where did all that come from? Which is very cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite hard to explain, but that's been something I'm have to be very grateful for, and that's something too I'll speak to a little bit in terms of mental health as like active gratitude. A lot of us don't do enough of that. I've got a roof over my head, etc. But yeah,
cool, man. Yeah. Luke, great to catch up, bro.
Yeah,
and a very wide ranging conversation today. We do share a big passion in spearfishing, but there's always aspects to people that are interesting to explore. It was cool to chat with you about comedy and neurodivergence and some of the other stuff we touched on today. I hope it's been helpful for people. And so thanks for being so like just yourself about your own shit,
Yeah, well, I hope people enjoy it as well because this is far different to what I expected to be talking about, but it's good.
Oh, good, brother. Well, mate, thanks for coming on the show.
Good on you, mate.
Well, as usual, guys, Luke Potts didn't disappoint. Very, very cool conversationalist. And like I warned you in the intro, this episode today, very wide-ranging. In some ways, quite far removed from the spearfishing lifestyle, but all related and all real, and real stuff, I think, particularly around the mental health stuff. I feel like there's a lot of people that virtue signal and talk about, stuff, but, when the rubber hits the road and you're going through a tough spot, you want to almost hear from people that have gone through some tough stuff themselves. And Luke's very much like that. And I hope you enjoyed sort of the frankness and just the honesty around some of this stuff today in today's episode. If it brought any issues up for you, call Lifeline or a similar helpline, particularly if it's triggering some real dark thoughts for you and you just don't know where to go. Just talk to someone, honestly. Can make a world of difference. Don't head into a deep, dark cave and try and hide until you get better. It's a tough spot, and I hope you sort of maybe you got a bit of that out of today's episode and realize you're not alone if you are going through something yourself. But guys, also the crowdfunding campaign Luke's running, go to Luke Likes Ledges on Instagram. Get some more details there because that campaign is up and running. There are some like early bird specials. So if you do want to get in at a sort of a cheaper price point, there's still a few of those spots open, I believe. But it's already doing really, really well. And hats off to Luke for creating a wetsuit with a bunch of features that Spearos will know, love, and like. Guys, as usual, patrons are putting fuel in the outboard episode by episode. If you want to do that, go to patreon.com/NoobSpearo. I'd love to have you there. But I love it that you share the podcast, the froth, the stoke, tell people about it, leave reviews. It's all welcome. It's all good. And it's all helping the Noob Spearo be what it is today. Thank you for being part of this community, for listening to the show and sharing it with your mates. I'll see you back in a week. It's a live Zoom call with Tim McDonald, former Australian spearfishing champion, Tom Sandstrom, and more. We're talking about the Mackay Beyond the Hardline Intermediate Charter course coming up. It's fully sold out, overbooked actually. It's always good. We review sort of some of the stuff that happened in last year's intermediate, and there should be some practical and actionable takeaways for you and your own spearfishing. I'll see you then. Mackay Beyond the Hardline in 1 week with Tim McDonald, Tom Sandstrom, and more. See you then.
I remember the first time a shark took my Spanish mackerel. The delight of getting close enough to plant a shot mid-body was soon supplanted by the disappointment of a slack regline as I pulled in my spear gun with nothing to show for it. That moment is captured in every bit of Fuck the Taxman gear, from UV-resistant long-sleeve fish shirts like Not My First Rodeo jersey, right through to Death and Tax's beach towels. Get amongst it all at fuckthetaxman.com. Tongue-in-cheek gear that only Spearos and fish shows really understand. Right now, Get a free hat of your choice when you spend $100 or more at fuckthetaxman.com. Check it out again, fuckthetaxman.com. Use the code NoobSpearo and get yourself a free hat of your choice when you spend more than $100.
Absolutely mint customer service. Specialty spearfishing equipment, elite spear gun performance components, unforgettable reliability. You want to find out where to buy this? Punch in Neptonics.com and shop at the best US spearfishing store, Neptonics.com. Free shipping to the lower 48 when you spend over $199, and you can use the code NOOB10 to save 10%. This is your chance to save dosh. Buy deadly good gear and experience A-grade customer service. Will you shop with the best? Visit Neptonics.com. Use the code NOOB10 to start shooting 35-pound muttons tomorrow. Actual performance may differ from advertisement. Please refer to terms and conditions to see if you're eligible to be a legend like Shrek. This advertisement was not even endorsed by Jerry and the team at Neptonics. Hoorah, and God bless America.
Hey, live it, breathe it with today's show sponsor, Adreno. They are the world's largest dive store, and they have an ever-growing range of equipment for frothers just like you. The store is staffed by legends who absolutely live and breathe the spearfishing lifestyle. Check it out. They have hassle-free returns. They've got a price match guarantee in Australia and always flat rate shipping, and you can even use Afterpay. Check them out at adreno.com.au. Noob Spearo's longest running partner. Massive thanks to them who keep powering the Noob Spearo podcast.